The city of Seoul buzzed with life, its streets alive with the constant hum of people rushing to and fro. Sumin walked carefully, her fingers wrapped tightly around a small brown paper bag from her family's neighborhood bakery. The warm scent of freshly baked bread wafted around her, a comforting reminder of home. Just a few steps ahead, Jay walked with a purposeful stride. He was a junior graphic designer, his messenger bag slung across his shoulder, filled with sketches and design proposals. The morning was crisp, with a slight autumn chill that made people pull their jackets a little closer. Neither Sumin nor Jay knew each other, though they had crossed paths countless times in this sprawling city. Today was different. As they walked along the busy street near Gwangwamun Square, something unusual was about to happen. A gust of wind swept through the street, carrying with it a small piece of paper. It danced between pedestrians, twirling and spinning until it landed directly between Sumin and Jay's feet. Instinctively, they both reached down to pick it up. Their hands touched for just a moment, and they looked up, meeting each other's eyes. The paper fluttered between their fingers, a strange connection forming in that brief instant. Sumin noticed Jay had kind eyes, slightly tired but warm. Jay saw Sumin's curious expression, her hand still touching the mysterious piece of paper. "Did you drop this?" Jay asked, his voice calm and clear. Sumin shook her head. "No, I don't think so." The paper was old, its edges slightly yellowed, with what appeared to be a partial map or drawing. It wasn't a typical piece of trash one would find on a busy Seoul street. Something about it felt different, important. Around them, the city continued its rhythm. People walked past, coffee shops buzzed with morning conversations, and delivery scooters weaved through the traffic. But for a moment, Sumin and Jay existed in their own small world, connected by this unexpected piece of paper. "Would you like to look at it together?" Jay suggested, gesturing to a nearby cafe. The morning light filtered through the windows, creating a warm, inviting space. Sumin hesitated. She was not the type to talk to strangers, especially in a busy city where everyone minded their own business. But something about this moment felt different. The paper seemed to pulse with a kind of energy, demanding to be understood. "Okay," she replied, surprising herself. They sat at a small table near the window. The cafe was quiet, with only a few early morning customers enjoying their coffee and pastries. Jay carefully spread the paper between them, his designer's eye already tracing the lines and markings. The paper looked like a partial map, but not of any place they immediately recognized. There were strange markings, some that looked like coordinates, others that seemed to be some kind of symbols. A faint series of numbers was written in the corner, almost as if it were an afterthought. "What do you think this is?" Sumin asked, her curiosity growing with each passing moment. Jay studied the paper carefully. "I'm not sure. But it doesn't look like something random. This seems deliberate." Their conversation was interrupted by the cafe's soft background music and the occasional clink of coffee cups. Outside, the city continued its morning dance, unaware of the small moment of mystery unfolding inside. As they leaned closer to examine the paper, neither Sumin nor Jay realized that this chance encounter would be the beginning of something much larger. The mysterious paper was more than just a piece of old parchment, it was a key to a story that had been waiting to be told. The morning light continued to stream through the cafe windows, casting a golden glow on the table, on the paper, and on two strangers who had been brought together by something beyond mere coincidence. The cafe hummed with quiet morning energy as Sumin and Jay continued to examine the mysterious paper. Steam rose from their untouched coffee cups, creating a misty barrier between them and the bustling world outside. Jay carefully turned the paper, studying its edges and markings. His fingers traced a series of faint lines that seemed to connect in a complex pattern. Sumin watched intently, her curiosity growing with each passing moment. "These look like coordinates," Jay muttered, pulling out his phone to cross-reference the numbers. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, comparing the markings to digital maps. Suddenly, Sumin noticed something unusual. When she tilted the paper slightly, a hidden message became visible. It was written in extremely light ink, almost invisible unless viewed from just the right angle. The writing was small, carefully crafted to remain hidden. "Wait," she whispered, leaning closer. "There's something else here." The message was fragmented, written in a mix of Korean and what appeared to be an old family code. Words emerged slowly: family secret, hidden, mountain, before time runs out. Jay's phone buzzed with a location match. The coordinates pointed to a remote area in the mountains outside Seoul. It was a region known for its dense forests and old historical sites, a place where many family stories remained buried. An elderly woman at a nearby table glanced their way. Her eyes seemed to linger on the paper, a flash of recognition crossing her weathered face. But when Sumin looked again, the woman was quietly sipping her tea, appearing completely disinterested. "My grandmother used to tell stories about family secrets," Sumin said softly. "But I always thought they were just old tales." Jay noticed a small symbol in the corner of the paper, an intricate design that looked like a family crest. It was unlike any modern symbol, with roots that seemed to stretch back generations. The cafe around them continued its morning routine. Baristas prepared coffee, customers chatted, but Sumin and Jay existed in their own world of mystery. The paper seemed to pulse with untold stories, with secrets waiting to be discovered. A text message interrupted their concentration. It was from an unknown number, sent precisely at that moment. The message contained only 3 words: "Look behind you." They turned simultaneously, hearts racing. But there was nothing unusual, just the normal morning crowd, people enjoying their coffee, reading newspapers, starting their day. When they looked back, the paper had changed slightly. A new line of text was visible, as if written by an invisible hand. It read, "Time is short. Trust no one." Jay's professional design skills kicked in. He recognized the paper was old, perhaps 50 or 60 years. The ink was special, something used in official documents decades ago. This was no ordinary piece of paper found by chance. Sumin's hands trembled slightly. She recognized elements of the writing, similar to the way her grandfather used to write secret messages during his time working in government archives. Outside, the city continued its rhythm. Buses moved along the street, people rushed to work, but inside the cafe, a different story was unfolding. A story of secrets, of hidden messages, of a mystery that had waited generations to be discovered. The elderly woman at the nearby table suddenly stood up. For a brief moment, her eyes met Sumin's, a look of understanding, of warning, of something deeper than a simple glance. Then she was gone, lost in the crowd of morning commuters. Jay and Sumin looked at each other. The paper lay between them, a bridge connecting 2 strangers to a story much larger than themselves. The hidden message was clear: something important was waiting to be uncovered, and their chance meeting was just the beginning. The morning light continued to stream through the cafe windows, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper of secrets yet to be revealed. The afternoon light filtered through the dusty window of an old bookshop near the city center. Sumin and Jay had followed a series of small clues that led them to this quiet, forgotten place. Shelves lined with ancient books reached from floor to ceiling, creating a maze of literary history. An old man watched them from behind the counter, his eyes seemingly more aware than his tired posture suggested. Wooden floors creaked with every step they took, telling stories of countless visitors who had walked these paths before. Jay's fingers ran along the spines of old books, looking for something, though he wasn't entirely sure what. Sumin picked up a thick, leather-bound volume about local Korean history. When she opened it, something fell to the floor with a soft flutter. A photograph. Old and slightly yellowed, but perfectly preserved. The image captured 2 people standing in front of an old mountain building. The man wore a traditional Korean suit from what looked like the 1950s. The woman beside him had a complex expression, part sadness, part determination. Something about their stance suggested they were more than just casual acquaintances. On the back of the photograph, barely visible, was a series of handwritten notes. Coordinates. Familiar coordinates that matched the mysterious paper they had found earlier. "Look," Sumin whispered, pointing to a small detail in the photograph. A distinctive ring on the man's hand, the same symbol they had seen on the mysterious paper. The old bookshop owner approached slowly, his movements careful and calculated. "Interesting photograph," he said, his voice carrying a weight of unspoken knowledge. Jay examined the image closely. The building in the background looked like a government facility, but something about it seemed different. Hidden. The kind of place that held secrets. Do you know anything about this? Jay asked the bookshop owner. The old man's eyes flickered with a moment of recognition. But he simply shrugged, returning to his counter without answering. Suman noticed a small marking on the photograph's edge, a stamp from an archive she recognized from her grandfather's stories about historical preservation. It was a government archive stamp, but from a department that supposedly no longer existed. The photograph seemed to pulse with untold stories. The couple looked directly at the camera, their expressions holding secrets that words could not describe. Their clothing, their posture, even the way they stood together spoke of a time of significant change in Korea. Outside, the city continued its daily rhythm. Cars moved along the street, people walked past the bookshop, completely unaware of the small discovery happening inside. Jay carefully slipped the photograph into a protective sleeve. Something about this image felt important, not just as a historical artifact, but as a key to something larger. The bookshop seemed to grow quieter. The old man had disappeared somewhere into the back of the shop. Dust particles danced in the afternoon light, creating a sense of suspended time. "We need to find out more about these people," Suman said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jay nodded. The photograph was more than just an old picture. It was a connection to something bigger, a story waiting to be uncovered. As they prepared to leave, the old bookshop owner reappeared. He handed them a small envelope. "Perhaps this might help," he said, his eyes holding a mixture of warning and invitation. The afternoon light continued to stream through the windows, casting long shadows across the ancient bookshelves. A story was unfolding, a story that had waited decades to be told. Outside, the city of Seoul moved forward, unaware of the small moment of discovery happening in the quiet, dusty bookshop. The mountain trail wound through dense forest, challenging every step Suman and Jay took. Early morning mist hung between ancient trees, creating a world of shadows and silence. Their backpacks were heavy, filled with supplies and the mysterious documents they had collected. The coordinates from the photograph guided their journey. GPS signals became weak in these remote mountains, forcing them to rely on old-fashioned navigation and the hand-drawn map they had discovered in the bookshop. Jay checked their position carefully. His designer's precision helped them navigate through challenging terrain. Steep rocky paths and thick vegetation made walking difficult. Suman moved with unexpected strength, her small frame hiding remarkable mountain experience. Strange markings appeared occasionally on trees, small symbols that matched the ones on their mysterious paper. These were not typical hiking trail markers. Something deliberate connected these signs, like a hidden language only certain people would understand. By midday, the forest became darker. Massive trees blocked most of the sunlight, creating a green-tinted world of shadows and whispers. Strange sounds echoed, not typical mountain wildlife, but something more complex. Something that suggested human presence. "We shouldn't be here," Suman suddenly whispered, her hand touching an old tree trunk. Her fingers traced a barely visible carving, a symbol matching their mysterious document. Jay noticed her tension. "What's wrong?" "These markings," she said, "they're not random. They're a warning." The mountains seemed to listen. Wind moved through trees, carrying sounds of distant movement. Something watched them, not an animal, but something more deliberate. A small stream crossed their path, its water crystal clear. Jay noticed something unusual: metal fragments near the water's edge. Old. Possibly from military equipment. But from what era? Their water supplies were running low. The stream offered clean water, but something made Suman hesitate. Her grandfather's stories about mountain secrets echoed in her mind. "We need to be careful," she told Jay. "These mountains hold stories people wanted to keep hidden." As afternoon approached, they discovered an old stone structure hidden between massive trees. Not a complete building, but ruins of something more significant. Moss-covered stone walls suggested it was decades, perhaps centuries old. Jay's professional eye caught details others might miss. Precise stone cutting. Complex architectural design that didn't match typical mountain structures. This was something special. A metal box was partially buried near the stone structure. Partially rusted, but still intact. Suman carefully extracted it, her hands moving with unexpected skill. Inside, they found documents. Old government papers. Photographs. A small journal with handwriting that matched the mysterious paper they had found in Seoul. The mountain around them felt alive. Wind moved differently. Shadows seemed to shift. Something watched their discovery. Distant sounds suggested they were not alone. Movement in the trees. Careful, calculated presence. Someone or something was tracking their progress. Jay checked their GPS. They were deep in a region marked as restricted on official maps. A place that technically didn't exist according to government records. As sunset approached, the mountain transformed. Colors changed. Shadows grew longer. The stone structure they discovered seemed to pulse with hidden energy. "We need to document everything," Jay whispered, pulling out a small camera. Suman nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding forest. Something significant was happening. A story decades in the making was about to unfold. The metal box contained more than just documents. It contained a key to a mystery that had waited generations to be discovered. A mystery that connected their families, their city, and something much larger than they could currently understand. Darkness began to fall. The mountain held its breath, waiting for their next move. Their journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Night covered the mountain like a thick blanket. Suman and Jay huddled near the old stone structure, their small flashlight casting shadows on the documents they had discovered. The metal box contained more than just papers, it held a story that would change everything they knew about their families. The journal belonged to Suman's grandfather, a man she thought she had known completely. But these pages revealed a different story. He had been part of a secret government research team in the 1960s, working on a project so classified that it didn't officially exist. Jay's fingers carefully turned the fragile pages. Complex diagrams mixed with personal notes. Scientific observations intertwined with personal reflections. The writing suggested something extraordinary, a discovery that could have changed everything. Photographs showed underground research facilities. Mysterious equipment. People whose faces had been carefully scratched out, but whose presence felt significant. Each image told part of a larger story. A sudden sound outside made them freeze. Something moved in the forest, deliberate, calculated movements that suggested human presence. But no light appeared. No voices broke the mountain's silence. The documents revealed a shocking truth. Their grandparents had been part of a government project investigating something beyond typical scientific research. Something that connected ancient Korean historical secrets with advanced research. "We can't tell anyone about this," Suman whispered, her hands trembling slightly. Jay nodded. The information they held could potentially disrupt everything: family histories, government narratives, historical understanding. A small envelope fell from the journal. Inside, a letter addressed to future generations, written in a careful, precise hand. The letter explained a complex story of sacrifice, hidden knowledge, and a mission that extended beyond a single lifetime. Their families were connected in ways they never understood. The research project had selected specific families, creating a network of individuals who would carry forward a particular mission. A mission that remained incomplete. The mountain around them seemed to listen. Wind moved through trees, carrying whispers of old secrets. The stone structure they sat near felt alive with hidden energy. Another sound outside. Closer this time. Something or someone was approaching their location. Jay quickly packed the documents, ensuring everything was carefully preserved. Suman prepared their escape route, her movements quick and precise. The letter revealed the final piece of the puzzle. Their grandparents had discovered something extraordinary, a scientific breakthrough that could potentially change human understanding of history, technology, and human potential. But they had chosen to hide it. To protect it. To wait for the right moment, the right people to continue their work. Those people were now Suman and Jay. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness outside. Professional. Calculated. Not a random hiker, but someone searching with purpose. "We need to move," Jay whispered. Sumin nodded. Their discovery was just the beginning. A story that had waited generations was now their responsibility. The mountain held its secrets. The forest watched silently. And two ordinary people from Seoul now carried an extraordinary legacy. As they prepared to leave, the first light of dawn began to break. A new day. A new understanding. A new mission. Their journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The mysterious project their grandparents had started would now continue through them. A story of hidden knowledge, scientific discovery, and family secrets that would change everything they understood about their world. Outside, the mountain remained silent. Watching. Waiting.